Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Friday, the 7th of June, 2024. I'm Michael Thompson. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about, so let's get going. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed 0.5% higher today to 7,860 points. A pretty solid end to the week, really, bringing gains across the last 5 days to more than 2%. Consumer discretionary and mining stocks did a lot of the heavy lifting today. The big miners had a good one. Off the back of higher iron ore prices, BHP closed 1.1% higher. Fortescue was up 1.3%. Similar story for the gold diggers. The price of the precious metal was up and Newmont climbed nearly 3%. Evolution Mining was up 1.9%. And Regis Resources closed up 3.5%. IDP Education was the best on the bourse today, up more than 6.2%. Commonwealth Bank, NAB and ANZ were all up about 0.5%. The only sector to go backwards today was technology. And even then, it was only just in the red. The worst performer was tech company Life360. I'll have a bit more on that one later. Overall, though, a pretty good day for local markets. On to story number 2 now, and the fallout from chair of Nine Entertainment and former federal treasurer Peter Costello seemingly pushing a journalist continues with current federal treasurer Jim Chalmers, who of course comes from the other side of the political fence, saying it is important that journalists are treated with respect. Even the deputy leader of the Liberal Party, Susan Lee, weighed in, saying it was important journalists were allowed to do their jobs. The incident, which is of course all over the internet, shows a journalist from the Australian pestering Mr. Costello with questions about Nine management as he was walking through Canberra Airport. Mr. Costello then appears to veer into the reporter who falls over while still filming. Others at the airport allege the Nine chair deliberately shoved the journalist. Mr. Costello today said the journalist was walking backwards, asking him questions, and he ran into an advertising placard. Now, the board of Nine was due to meet today anyway to discuss other matters. I'm guessing there might have been a late addition to the agenda for that meeting. Story number 3, Immigration Minister Andrew Giles has stepped up the extent to which community safety needs to be considered in visa directions with new rules. The new order, known as Direction 110, will require more weight be given to safety and the impact on family violence victims when visa decisions are made. Community safety is included as a key principle of the decision-making framework for visa applications under the new direction and elevates the impact on victims of family violence and their families into a primary consideration. Mr. Giles says the Administrative Appeals Tribunal has been making visa decisions that do not prioritise community safety enough. He said he has cancelled 40 visas in the national interest since the start of last week. Story number 4, Life360. I mentioned it earlier. This is the ASX-listed developer of family social media apps, debuted on the Nasdaq overnight and closed at its listing price of $27. The shares opened at $26 each, but recovered by the end of the session, according to the Financial Review. The San Francisco-based company, which makes a popular daily tracking app and owns Bluetooth tracking device brand Tile, sold 3.7 million shares to raise $100 million. Locally, Life360's share price is up nearly 100% this year. Chief Executive Chris Hulls said the Nasdaq listing was needed to help the under-the-radar consumer tech company lift its profile in the United States and help the company raise capital to fund bigger acquisitions in the future. On the local market, though, Life360 closed down nearly 7%. And finally, story number 5, the European Central Bank last night became the second central bank in just 24 hours to cut interest rates behind the Bank of Canada yesterday. The ECB lowered the benchmark rate by 25 basis points, saying the inflation outlook has improved markedly. President Christine Lagarde said there is a strong likelihood that the central bank is shifting into a dialing back phase, even though inflation will stay above the target range for the next 12 months. The shift in Canada and Europe marks the official end of the global rate hiking cycle, which emerged along with COVID. The RBA is, of course, unlikely to cut interest rates anytime soon, with the first reduction possible at the end of the year. That's it for the afternoon report for Friday, the 7th of June, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. Join us tomorrow morning for the weekend edition of the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson. Enjoy your evening.